Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take a look here again at Bitcoin, see kind of what's going on. Hopefully try to understand a little bit more about the recent dip and how much further it could possibly go. I wouldn't be overly concerned with the sea of red here. It's pretty standard when we have a significant increase like we saw yesterday. As long as it doesn't come down lower than the open from yesterday, or essentially the lowest point, then we're probably going to be just fine. Okay. Again, we don't want to have that bearish engulfing candle, and that would effectively, show that we have maybe a possible turnaround. Until we get there, I wouldn't worry too much about it. This should probably be a pretty standard, retracement, so to speak. All right. So just before we get started, not a financial advisor. I love teaching people how to trade. Hopefully you can learn a thing or two here today. I hope you do. And of course, go ahead and reference the website CryptoCache.tech if you want to consider becoming a community member where you can learn and grow together as members. And we had a cool, really awesome roundtable discussion yesterday. So thanks again to my members for joining me here with that, as well as the fact that I send out signals for every single trade that I take. We're going to start seeing a lot more signals here soon, just based on the fact that Bitcoin appears to be kind of stabilizing. And I think that we're going to see a continuation of 46,000 in the relative near future. But once again, it has to retrace and dip first. We have some news coming here today as well, possibly with the meeting minutes for the Fed meeting. So that's going to possibly cause a ripple here. There's a good chance we're seeing this red action here so far, minus just the natural correction based on the anticipation of that happening, right? So that could be a catalyst here, so to speak, and we just got to be mindful of that, right? So again, hard to say specifically how it's going to impact us, but we're going to try to find out, obviously, what that might look like. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in here. So let's just start with the standard stuff here. Set moving average on the 50, or on the 1 day, of course. The 50-day SMA is working as a support level as per usual. We should continue to see that hold. What's nice is averaging out right around 41,500, which is essentially, in my opinion, probably the lowest point in which we'll see Bitcoin go for some time. We got a decent amount of volume at that price point, and we should be able to see that as a nice support if we were to come down and test that again. Okay, again, I think we're a little ways away from that, but we'll figure it out when we get there. But that's kind of a good sign there. Essentially, we're still up over 50 on the RSI as well on the 1 day. So those are all good things in my personal opinion. I think we're in good shape. One thing I also want to kind of put perspective on here as well, big picture here, when it comes to the weekly. Correction, I'm sorry, this is the monthly. I just want to touch on something here and just kind of let you know that we are still effectively making higher highs and higher lows. Okay, because I was looking at this recently, I was like, well, that might be something to bring to your attention to let you know kind of essentially that, even if we were to kind of dip back down to say to 35, 36,000, we'd still be making higher highs and higher lows on the monthly. So that's a good sign in a sense. I know it's kind of a slower moving averages, and it's kind of almost too big of a macro perspective, but it's helpful to understand that we're still essentially moving upwards in the overall sense of things. Because sometimes we can kind of get stuck in the smaller time frames and forget about the big stuff there. So hopefully that helps you understand that Bitcoin is generally in a whole still in a good progression upwards. And the fact that we're not making any lower lows on the big term, the large time frame, is a very good sign. Again, got to celebrate some of the small stuff there. Now, taking a look here at Bitcoin, of course, in the 4 hour, what I want to kind of note here is the fact that we are testing the 50-day set moving average. That could very well work as a support level. Now, granted, if we have some negative adverse news from the minutes here today, of course, to say, for example, we were to note and see a 0.5%, that 0.5% increase in inflation, that could very well push the price action further. That may not hold as a support. But for now, it's working as a tentative support level. We got to kind of understand that that could hold and should likely hold pending we don't have any crazy obnoxious news, right? Also note too, we have a previous resistance, now current support at 42,800. That should be the secondary support level we could and should rely on if the price action were to continue to progress down, right? And of course, the tertiary support level we could also say is right around 42,000, pretty even. Just say round number 42,000, because that Fibonacci retracement level is at 42,175, but I prefer just to say 42 even, because obviously the price has kind of averaged itself out there before. And then obviously 41,500 based on the previous volume profile, whereas there's a decent amount of volume. It's the very last, volume support we could say in the most recent past before the price increased. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it's going to free fall, but we don't have a tremendous amount of volume in the recent past here, between 41.5 and 35,000. So technically, the price could fall a lot further than we hope if we lose that support at 41.5. Okay, so again, I wouldn't say we're there yet. We need to have more data, of course, but at this point, I think there's more positive than negative at this moment. We got some nice support levels in place, and I think we got to celebrate that. We're also still up over 50 on the RSI, which is a good sign here too. Keep in mind we drop below that moving average 50 and we start testing 42.8. Excuse me. We could and very well should see 50 on the RSI lost, and that would not be a great sign. Okay. We've also got a potential for a bearish divergence here as well on the MACD. That's never a good sign. In the big picture there, essentially just telling us that we could and should see a turnaround or a reversal here soon. Right. So I think it's inevitable for the price to continue to progress down a little bit lower. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that come down a little bit further to at least test 42.8 or maybe even 43. Okay. That's probably a strong likelihood. We also take a look here at TD sequential. You can see that previously we did hit a 9, which is pretty standard. We actually had that extra leg up there, and it got rejected right at about 44,800, which was a previous resistance, as well as a simple fact that you try to push much further than a 9 on TD sequential, and you're going to get rejected in most cases. It's rare for the price to continue past that. Obviously, some coins have proven to just defy the laws of trading and just go straight through it. But for the most part, when you hit a 9, tells us we had 9 consistent 4-hour candlesticks of bullish momentum. Okay, we can't overlook that. That's an exhaustive state, which makes sense. It came up there, got a little bit too high for its own good, right? And then it came back down. So at this rate, again, it doesn't have to always come to full fruition, but we could see a 9 on TD sequential on the 4-hour. So potentially we may see another 7 4-hour candlesticks, essentially 24-hour period of red momentum to the downside. It could even just consolidate and go sideways right at the key level support here, potentially just say at the 50-day SMA and or of course 42.8. I don't think we're going to see much lower than 42.8, or at least I hope we don't see lower than 42.8, because if we look at the 1-day chart, you can kind of see here that this candlestick opened right around 42.5. If we get closer to the open from yesterday, we have a bearish potential engulfing pattern, and that's never a good sign. That basically signals reversal at all times. You can see it here. This is a bearish engulfing where the price, the entire close and open engulfed the previous candlestick completely, right? In other words, you never, you omit the wicks, of course, but just say, for example, this was to come all the way down to this point here and close just right around 42.5. That would be a recipe for a likelihood of a continuation to the downside. For now, I wouldn't say we need to worry too much about it. We're only halfway there. Granted, we have some terrible news, or most likely adverse news. It's not going to, in my opinion, I doubt they're going to have an emergency meeting and not increase the rates. That wouldn't make any sense, but I'd be surprised either way. So that's kind of where we're at there for the 4-hour. One last thing we'll take a look at is the 1-hour time frame here, and this is giving us every indication to open and or maintain a short position. Okay, so we got the lagging span, free and clear of any price action, conversion below the baseline, and of course, the price is traveling into the cloud. So I misspoke. We don't have every signal saying we want to open a short. We have most signals, right? 2 out of 3 essentially. So the one thing you do need to understand is that sometimes the cloud can work as a support level, and when the price travels into the cloud, you don't want to consider taking a position. That's usually the common rule of thumb. So oftentimes you want to wait for it to come below to have that conservative indication. And again, if we come down below and we break 43,000, there's a strong chance we're going to see a continuation on the downside anyways. So at that point, I would say we'd have better, more accurate information to take a short position. If you want to take a short position now, just know you have a lot of good factors. We got the MACD convergence on the 4-hour chart, divergence, so to speak, as well as majority of this minus the price being just outside of the cloud, telling us that a short position might be viable, right? Again, might be is a key takeaway here. So I don't really prefer to trade with might be's. I like to trade with more certainty, if you will. So again, I would probably hesitate to take entry just yet. We're at a 6 on TD sequential here, so potentially 3 more hours of bearish divergence. So we'll see here soon. This could very well just be a little bit of a dip, and the price could come right back up. There's a great chance of, honestly, either scenario, of course. So it's hard to say specifically, but just generally speaking, big picture here, I would expect the price to continue to progress downwards versus come back up. It makes more sense. This is a natural correction, of course, but as you can tell, this 1-hour candle here is close to the market open, and that essentially is just a sign that obviously, the price is going to probably continue downwards today. I would be surprised if the price continued to rallied back up to its original state. It's a little bit on the exhausted side and needs to calm down and retrace, right? So I do think 43,000 is probably an inevitability at this point. So again, if you're going to have a stop or a short position, maybe consider something tight. Make sure that your stop loss is a little tighter, and of course, try not to leverage too much if you were to. But other than that, yeah, honestly, this is just a normal thing. Okay, we don't need to really overly concern ourselves with this retracement here today. It's pretty standard. But if it grows a lot larger and starts to engulf the previous candle, that's when I'd be more worried. Okay, a bounce off of 43,000, I think, is still pretty likely though. Okay. All right, well, that's kind of where we're at there. Hopefully you found benefit here today. If you do, comment below. If not, that's okay too. Maybe consider becoming a community member where you can learn and grow as a trader. We have weekly roundtable discussions. I send out signals for every trade that I take. And more importantly, of course, I have a trading academy to teach you how to become a better trader. All right, check that out in your own time, CryptoCache.tech. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have yourself a great rest of your day. Thank you.